Introduction to Part 1. When Love Was Still Unimaginable. There was a time in my life when I didn't even know how to dream. Not because I lacked imagination, but because I had never known joy, the kind of joy that opens the heart to possibility. Before college, I wasn't thinking about what I wanted or what might make me happy. When I first sat down with a counselor at Georgia Tech in 1984, I didn't know that I was beginning a journey that would lead to love, healing, and a life beyond anything I'd known. I was just trying to survive. College felt overwhelming. I had no real social skills. I had spent my adolescence in silence, invisible in my classrooms, uncertain in my own skin. I didn't know how to connect. I didn't know what it meant to belong. And so I found myself at age 18 walking into a campus counseling office, not because I had a vision for the future, but because I felt I wouldn't make it on my own. I had no idea then that this search for support would lead me not just to stability, but to profound transformation. If I had ever taken the time to dream, I would never have been at Georgia Tech and studying engineering. I'd like to say that I experienced joy and success beyond my wildest dreams, but the fact is that when I walked into the counseling and career planning building and into the office with my counselor, I had never thought about what I wanted. Nothing could be more meaningless for me than engineering. No career direction could be more inappropriate for me than engineering. In addition, what my parents had given me was fear. That was their greatest gift. Initially, it was fear of them. I guess they took the verses from the Bible that said that beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, literally, and they used that as a template for what they were seeking. Not respect, but fear of one's parents. Undoubtedly, there are obviously more disturbing stories of abuse, stories that would inspire almost anyone to value the role of child protective services, even those who otherwise are hesitant to see the goodness of what Child Protective Services, CPS, is tasked with doing. My second wife would tell me about how much more brutal and violent her father was. Undoubtedly, there are arguments about overzealously involving CPS and those who think that a child is just oppositional when it comes to any rules. That wasn't me. I did wish that CPS would have come to examine the things that were happening to us. Let me state that again. I don't want there to be any confusion or uncertainty. As a child, I wanted CPS to get involved and ask us as me if I was a victim of child abuse. If that happened, I would have been talking for hours and hours describing things that were happening, and I would have been put in foster care. It would have been far from ideal, but it was what I desperately needed. It wasn't just fear of them that I learned, but fear of the world. I was made to fear all the things that could go wrong if I didn't do everything right, get into a great college, university. For this to happen, I had to get straight A's. It's ironic that I didn't question this wisdom, since my brother and sister could not begin to approach the grades I was achieving in much more advanced courses. By high school, I was taking advanced placement classes for those on track to enter a prestigious and challenging university, and I was getting straight A's. Looking back, I now understand that what I was really searching for was attachment, the kind of secure, mutual, loving connection I had never experienced growing up. My family, though outwardly intact, was emotionally barren. The messages I received from them, explicit and implied, taught me not to trust closeness, not to expect to be wanted, and not to believe I mattered. But slowly, that would begin to change. This first part of the memoir traces that journey from a shy, uncertain person to someone who not only found their voice, but found love. First in the brief but life-changing relationship with Kelta, then more fully and enduringly with Lynn. It was through these relationships that I came to understand what safety, intimacy, and joy truly felt like. This is the story of earned, secure attachment, of discovering what I had never known to want, of realizing that life could be more than survival. It could be beautiful. I didn't know then that it wouldn't last forever, and I certainly didn't know how deeply it would hurt to lose it all. That part comes later. However, one cannot know or appreciate loss without first discovering joy, expansiveness, connection, and a life where one is allowed to dream because one has no idea that those dreams can't come true. So the first half of this book is a love story, but it doesn't start that way. I have to tell you where I came from and what life was like from the earliest days of my life.